minutes, and when it's time, we just, like I can say that, hey, now it's starting, and one kind of an introduction, whatever, quick one. So we have a couple of minutes still.
Yeah,
just you and me, not the world watching.
So what do you teach?
Languages, just like you do, huh?
Oh, okay, excellent. What grade level?
My students are 13 to 15.
Okay, so just like me then. Okay.
All right. How big a school is it where you work?
I have 1,700 kids in the building.
Oh man, that's quite a few.
and it's about average size, I would say, maybe a little bit above average. In my community, there are actually 2 high schools. So so we have another high school with about 1,500 kids. So so from that standpoint, so a lot of high school age kids. So I'm one of I think there's 10 or 11 of us that teach English language arts in the high school alone.
Okay.
With about an average class size of around 28 to 30. So so that's a fun experience teaching reading and writing, as you know.
Oh yeah, sure thing. Especially if you add some information technology spice into that.
Well, that's what I try to do. So it definitely changes up my class different from others. Years ago, I wrote a grant for a class set of iPads. So my class has a set of iPads that kids can use throughout the class period. So that's nice. So
did you say that all of those guys have iPads?
Just in my class. So they come in and I have a little cart in the corner.
Okay.
And they grab the iPad and they use it for the class period, and then they return it. But my kids in the district I live in, they're fairly affluent. So they themselves, I would say 98% of our students have their own personal device, whether it's a phone or an iPad or a computer at home. So I'm lucky
they can connect to the school's network using their own stuff.
Yeah, so we have a open Wi-Fi for the students that they can connect to. So it's nice, it's allowed them to bring their own devices in. If a teacher obviously doesn't have a set of devices for them to use, they can bring in their own. So that's been very helpful.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, this school, where I've been working here for time really flies. It must be something like, shoot, is it getting close to 15 years now? Anyway, we have some only right now. Wait a sec. Am I lying? Probably say around 300.
Wow.
And and that's like some younger students as well. Mine are 13 to 15, but we have younger students here as well, from 10 to 10, 11, 12. Yeah.
Nice.
But I don't teach those guys much, hardly at all, the way it is now. So right now it's 13 to 15-year-olds. Do you call that is it like high school level or
So high school is what I teach. So that'd be grades 9 through 12.
Yeah.
So 9 through 12 is high school. 7 and 8 we'll call junior high school.
Yeah, right.
Middle school is 5 to 4 to middle school. Yeah, we'll do 4 to 6, and then elementary K through 3.
I always get those things mixed up. And I mean, didn't you used to say junior high, senior high?
Yeah, the senior high school is regular high school now. Yeah, so it's in junior high. Sometimes some districts put junior high just with middle school. So a building might be actually 4 through 8 or 5 through 8, and then elementary will be K through 3 or K through 4. So there's really no set protocol for the country in regards to how you do that. I mean, some junior highs will actually go 7, 8, 9, and then senior high school is just 10, 11, 12. So even the 9th graders, and so I've seen some districts where they even do that. So, which sometimes makes sense because 14-year-olds aren't nearly as mature as we would like them to be sometimes. So that makes some sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fill up my water bottle really quick. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
I can
go
have
ahead.
something just in case, and I'll be right back.
I have coffee already. Amazing. This is perfect timing for once, I believe. I can't believe I made it this well. Strangely enough, the way things tend to turn out, I'm slightly late. Not for my classes, though, but hangouts on air, sometimes just a little bit late. Now we are, man, this is amazing. Just right.
Okay, we're
All
live.
Right. Let's get this thing started for real. We've been live for a while, but now it's time.
Yes.
So this is Be Smart on Air. I'm Niilo from the North Pole, almost, meaning very northern Sweden. And what is this thing all about? Well, basically, I have this great opportunity to talk with people connected to education, learning, teaching, educational technology, and that's tons of fun. And this time I have with me here Nick Provenzano from the United States. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing.
Oops, and your audio.
My audio went out?
But now it's good, I think. Now it's good, I think.
Okay. I'm doing well, nice and early here over in Michigan. So I'm excited to talk to you. You're my first, host from the Arctic Circle, I guess.
Yeah, well, close to Arctic Circle for sure. It's just an hour or two from here, whatever.
Yeah.
not a huge deal actually for us, the Arctic Circle thing, but I guess for many other people it just might be. By the way, did I completely massacre your name? Provenzano, is that roughly?
No, you nailed it. Yeah, that's actually I'm very surprised. Thank you.
Wow.
I would not be as good with your names.
Well, Niilo is fine, you can just leave it at that.
It's a lot of vowels going on there.
Yeah.
As an English teacher, I look at that and I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's the Finnish style, since I've got my roots in deeply in the Finnish soil.
Okay.
But I've been living in Sweden for some. Let's see here. I can't count that much, like 35 years or so.
Okay.
That's the way things turn out, But it's definitely a very Finnish name. So talking about Michigan, in northern Michigan, obviously there are lots of people who way back in time moved there from the Nordic area, and you can see names that are easily recognized as Finnish there. So this name, my name, for example, if you know anything about Finland, you immediately know it can't be anything else but Finnish, I think. It's kind of funny.
Awesome.
You are an educator, obviously, and teacher, yes, and you have, like, I've got the impression that you have your fingers in quite a few pies connected to educational technology.
Yes.
Amazingly many, actually. So I'm really interested in that, and we could talk a bit more about that after a while. But before that, what about going back a little bit in time? How did you get into education from the very beginning? Was it something you were planning, or did it just happen?
Yeah. It's always a crazy story when I think about how I got involved in education. I actually went to university to play football. Well, I'm saying football because of all the Europeans. If I say soccer. I don't want to bother you, but football. So I went there to play football, and before I had a chance to start the year, I unfortunately hurt my knee.
Oh,
so there I was at a university. I was supposed to be playing football, and then I was like, "Oh, I should probably think of something else to do now."
Was it a bad injury?
It was pretty bad. It was some tearing of ligaments, and it was like a combination of things over playing a very rough style over a number of years. And my doctor was like, we can fix it, and you can heal, and you can play. But if you hurt again, you might not walk right. And I was like, I like walking, so after a number of years of knee, ankle, back injuries. I still have a passion for the sport, obviously. But, you have to look at it and go, at that point, I'm 18, 19 years old. And, I knew I'm not going to do this professionally. I'm not going to go and play for the U.S. team or anything. So I just had to make a decision like, okay, I can't do this. I transitioned to coaching, which I think a lot of footballers do, right? After you hit that time period, you can play, you can coach. And so I coached. And so that sparked a little bit of the interest in education. I mean, coaching is, educating. I had an opportunity to teach boys and girls at a very young age to play football and those fundamentals. And that's fun. And, it was engaging. And then a good friend of mine suggested I should take this intro to education class. So it's basically just a once over. It counted as like a credit that I needed anyway. So I was like, oh, I'll take a look at it. I was like, I've always enjoyed literature and history. And so, if those are your two favorite subjects, it's very tough to get a career outside of being a writer, an editor. Education kind of fits nicely into that. So
absolutely.
I took this class. I had a very passionate professor who really sparked into me this, I can do this type of thing. And from there, I just started the process. And I've been in love with education ever since. So, I had to have an injury to kind of set me toward my future career. And, it's been great ever since.
Yeah. So how many years have you been in education after you finished your studies?
15 now, I think, right around 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
I think it's, I've been at the same school my entire career.
All right.
So I'm very lucky to be able to say that. So that's been kind of nice, that consistency and to be a part of that community. So it's been very good.
And you can walk around.
And I can walk around. I can chase after my son. Those are all good things. When it gets a little rainy outside, the knee gets a little clicky, but it's those everything happens for a reason, right? And it led me down this path, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you are. I guess you were surprisingly wise at the young age. I mean, like when you are young and you get hurt, whatever. Oh, it'll be okay, and just keep at it, whatever. And then you get a little bit older, you just might feel it,
Yeah, right. It just starts to feel, but it's one of those things where I had a good support network around me, and making those decisions were tough, but it's just that being realistic, and you don't want to live your life hobbled around because you tried to keep doing something that your body just kept saying no, you can't do that anymore. And sometimes now at 36 years old, I try to do something that maybe 26-year-old Nick used to do. My body's like, no, you can't do that anymore. That's not. Stop it.
You're still young anyway. Come on. Young and energetic. That's what you are. So after finishing your studies, was it easy to get a job?
I got very lucky. So in the States, we do an internship style program while you're still in university. before you're eligible for a full-time teaching position.
Okay, yeah.
So what you'll do is that you'll work with a co-teacher. So you'll have a teacher that's a professional already in the classroom, and you'll work with them over the course of half of a school year. Where I was, I actually worked for that half of the school year, and the second half of the school year, a position had opened up. So I got very lucky that they moved me right in, because they're like, listen, we already have this guy. He knows the building. He knows the rules. He knows the students. So, I got very lucky, because the district that I'm in is one of the top districts in the state, one of the best in the country, and the school is one of the very top in the in the state as well, in the country. So I got very lucky to be able to slide right into a position that is a highly competitive. People want to come here. People want to work here. So I was very lucky to get that.
Just because you knew the building.
Yeah, well, it just I had that experience. I mean, like, the interview was very simple. Like, they knew my work, and I got a great recommendation from my co-teacher. So sometimes it's about timing, and so that worked out great for me, and I couldn't be happier to be where I am.
One more thing where you had kind of pretty good timing, like from sports to education and the first job, great job.
Yeah, it's weird how that just seems to happen, and like I said, it's sometimes how life unfolds for you, and I'm very lucky, and I'm familiar. I grew up in this area, so I've always been sort of familiar with this and that, and I've actually had relatives come through my school. I've actually taught cousins that have come through. So it's been like a really nice situation to be part of the community and be an educator in that community where so many people.
Absolutely, yeah. So do you teach full time, since doing all that other stuff like with educational technology, not only in the classroom, if I've got it right?
Yeah.
How the heck can you pull it off?
That's probably the most often asked question I get. How do you find the time? I teach full time, so I teach from 8 a.m. until 3:15 in the afternoon. I teach 5 sections, and
normally teachers do have a little bit of, perhaps tiny little bit of something to do even after the classes, huh?
Oh, well, yeah, we're always grading. We're always, doing homework, and I know our system is very different from the European system in regards to
I guess, yeah.
Homework and extracurriculars that students are involved with, because sports are integrated directly into our school system.
Yeah.
I know it's different in Europe, so it's a lot of extra stuff, and it's part of what we do, and that can be really time consuming. But a lot of the tech that I use allows me to streamline a lot of things. So a lot of the stuff that used to take me a lot of time doesn't take me as much time because of the technology that I use. So
yeah, that really should be, it should be that way.
Well, exactly, and that's what
that advantage from using technology.
Well, and that's why I tell teachers is it's more time on the front end to learn it and to implement it. But once you learn it and implement it, then it'll save you time. So it'll save you time on the back end, which will just compound. Like the amount of time I don't spend at the copy machine, running off handouts, because it's all digital now. Those hours add up over the course of the year that I can spend grading, so that when I go home, I can spend time with my family instead of hunkered down at a table going over essays and things like that. So
absolutely.
It definitely gives me more time as you go forward. And all the other things, people always ask how you time. I'm like, you find time for things that you're passionate about. And I find time for recently working with Raspberry Pi or Arduino microcomputers and things like that. Like that's what I have found time to do, and to build handheld gaming devices, and to play with 3D design and design my own 3D bow ties to print out, and which I've been doing. And the reason I've been doing it is because I want to keep learning so I can teach my kids.
Right.
So and in doing like 3D design, and while making bow ties doesn't seem to be solving like a massive world problem, it's having me design in 3D is helping me think in 3 dimensions, having me problem solve. It's having me critically think. Like, I'll challenge myself to, push the printer to do something that I know it can do, but I don't know how to make it do that. So I have to sit and I have to think. I have to sketch. I have to problem solve. So that critical thinking it's really giving me a better understanding of geometry, of physics, of these classes and subjects that made me cry when I was in high school. But if I would have had this, like, I would have been totally on board with, working with geometry or algebra and things like that, because it's something that I can physically touch and I can see instead of just looking at shapes on a page. I can pull up the program and I can flip it around and look at the angles and, pull up the ruler and do the measurements and then see what happens if there's an overhang here and how it'll collapse because of all of that stuff I'm learning on my own now at 36. And I look at the potential to have kids in these classes understand it more thoroughly now, because that's how they see, or that's how they think, is in 3 dimensions or with design. So I think there's a lot of applications. So I do these things in my small passing times because I have the time, because I'm no longer stressing over handouts and paper and all. I can grade so much faster digitally than I can on paper. So those hours add up, like I said, and so I can pursue other things that I'm passionate about. And those avenues of technology are just some of the things that I can focus on.
Is this possibly what you're talking about? Is this possibly the connection to this magical computational thinking as well? What do you think?
It really is. I mean, when we look at the world and where we're going, this push for science and technology and engineering and maths, these are very important subjects, that if we're going to advance as a culture and, solve the problems that are facing us across the world, whether it's things like climate change, whether it's things like pollution and those aspects, it's going to take critical thinkers. It's going to take problem solvers. It's going to take the kids that are sitting in our classes now, not necessarily the adults that are behind a desk in some office. So we need to give these kids the opportunity to solve problems, and we need to give them the tools to do that. And some people will look at a 3D printer and just go, "Oh, you're just going to make some toy, and that's just flashy." But if a student can design a prototype of something and then print it out, it can give them a better understanding of moving parts that they need to create to solve this problem. So it's just another tool that allows kids to solve potential problems in a more real, hands-on fashion. And so as teachers, I feel it's our responsibility to know these tools. The analogy I often give is that we would expect doctors to use the most current tools to perform their job. I don't want a doctor saying, "I know I have this tool that is better and is more efficient and will less likely to cause problems, but I'm going to use this tool from 1925 because I like it." That would be horrifying for a doctor to say, "I don't want to learn to do new stuff. I'm just going to do it this way." That would be awful. And there are some teachers that believe, like, I'm going to teach this way because that's the way that I was taught and that's the way that works. I don't have time to do the new things. And I think, that's to some degree unprofessional. And if you want to go extreme, like malpractice. I mean, you're teaching kids stuff and using tools that they're just not going to use. We need to teach them for tomorrow, not for yesterday.
Yeah, that's, I guess, pretty much the deal. And I think that pretty often teachers like me can be a bit, how should I put it? It might be kind of hard to start a project if you don't feel that you are extremely proficient in whatever, say, technology in this case. And I mean, of course, I can't be extremely proficient in everything, but I think you got to try anyway. And sometimes I guess we might even learn from the students a bit, and they can learn from each other as well.
Well, and that's the thing. One of the things I really try to share a lot about is letting teachers know that it's okay to fail, that it's okay to make
perhaps
mistakes.
Parents don't feel like that always.
No, but I can tell you that the kids respect it when you go to a class and you say something like, "Hey guys, I'm trying something new. I don't know how this is going to work, but bear with me and we'll learn together." In my experience, kids are totally on board with that. They look at that and they go, "Okay, like let's go figure this out. Let's go do this together." So that's what makes it so exciting, is that if you're willing to take that risk and not be afraid of failing, you can learn these new things. And as teachers, we can't pretend like we know it all. Kids can see that that's not true immediately. So it's really important just to say, "I don't know this," or "I'm learning this, let's try it." Because as I work with like Raspberry Pi or work with Arduino, I mean, there are kids around me that know code way better than me. And I'm like, "Hey kids, look what I did." And like a little light is like flashing. And they just kind of look at me like, "I did that when I was, 10 years old." But for me, I'm like so excited, and they smile and they're like, "Oh, it's cool, Mr. P." And or I'll tell them like, "So I've been working on this for like 3 days. I can't get this to work. Can anyone help me get this to work?" And the kid comes over and he goes, "Click, click, click," and there it starts working. And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, wait, stop! Show me that again." And so now the kid is teaching me, and that could be, I mean, anything. I mean, teachers have to stop being afraid of letting students know, "I'm learning something," because we have to be better. And the only way to get better is to ask for help when we need it and to try and do new things. We learn stuff through failure. We watch our kids do it all the time, and we can't pretend that we're better than that as we move forward and trying to improve our craft as teachers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And of course, the way world is today, being connected and everything. So there's really no other way of doing this. I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we now all have access to everything in the world.
Pretty much.
There's really, I mean, if you don't know something, go to YouTube. Like when I had to learn to tie a bow tie, I went to YouTube. I had never really tied one, and so I went to YouTube and I had this video on my phone. I just hit play over and over and over, and now I can tie a bow tie. I mean, it's just like, that's it. And as I do anything crazy, when teachers ask me, "How do I do this? How do I do that?" The first question I ask them is like, "Have you YouTubed it yet?" And they go, "Oh." I go, "Exactly. Like, that's it. Watch that video over and over and over and over again." And for me, I don't need to create these brand new videos. There are people that have all the time and all of the support, really fancy editing and video equipment to make really great videos on how to do things.
Yeah, absolutely.
My time would be better served teaching them how to find those videos and to pick which ones are the best than to recreate the wheel or even go up there. I mean, because now they can watch the video whenever they want. They can do it at home in bed before they go to sleep and go, "Oh, I can pay attention to that," or "I can do that," or during their off hour. So, I mean, there are so many great resources. And to remind kids of that as well, that YouTube is like the second most used like search engine. People always go, "Oh, it's Google." Well, then it's YouTube. And eventually you're going to see YouTube probably even surpass that, because people are going to want to know how to do things, not just get information. So that's the power of what technology has taken us. And in education, if you're giving kids anything to do that can just be Googled, you're going to be antiquated very quickly.
That's a fact. That's a fact. For sure. Are we talking about flipping the classroom here?
Well, as a literature teacher, my classrooms our classrooms are always flipped. That's why it's so funny when flipped classroom came about, and I'm learning about this. I go, "Oh, English teachers do this. Like, we assign the reading, they come back, and then we
they
apply
read the book.
class.
Here's the book. Take it home, read it, then we talk about it."
Right? That's what I always found so funny about flipped classroom. I was like, "Oh, we've been doing this for thousands of years."
Yeah, that's the way I feel as well. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, but for other subjects, it's a huge big thing. And I understand, because it's a change in practice. And so when my kids come back having read those pieces, and we can discuss and we can apply, I think that gives us a distinct advantage because we can use class time for growth, like specific growth. And and there are times when we are teaching, writing. So, could I do a video and the kids watch the video on writing at home and then they come and then they practice? I'm like, yeah, I could definitely do that, and that would be a more truer, sense of flipped classroom in a language arts class. But because so much of the reading goes on at home, I like that one-on-one writing in class, as I go through that and show those examples. But, flipped learning, it's powerful. My big thing has really been project-based learning, is to move away from the standardized testing that really dogs us over here in the States.
Yeah, I've heard a bit about that.
Yeah, it's bad. And I don't give any mandatory standardized tests besides, I think I have to give 2, like that's required at the end of each semester. But otherwise, I don't. My kids don't fill out little bubbles and they don't do any of that stuff. It's all a demonstration of knowledge, a demonstration of understanding. And I started that 5 or 6 years ago, and it's been great. And the kids love it, and my kids have the understanding, they have the knowledge, and they go to the next year prepared, so they're not missing out by not filling in bubbles. I tell the kids, I'm not an art teacher. I'm not going to make you fill in circles. Not there's anything wrong with that, and I love my art teachers, but that's nothing. A kid can know everything, and another kid can know nothing, and they could still get the exact same score on a multiple choice test if they know how to take a test. It doesn't mean know anything. But to give the kids an opportunity to create a piece of art, to demonstrate understanding of a theme or of a symbol, or to compose a song, to talk about characterization or mood or tone. These are things students have done, and they are beautiful. And these are things that demonstrate understanding on a level that a piece of paper filled with bubbles could never capture.
That's for sure.
And that's
the formative kind of way you're talking about, huh? Like,
and that's
working together with the students and following them and giving them feedback and seeing the way they learn.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people think that project-based learning is the teacher gives them an assignment and they sit at their desk and they read the paper. But project-based learning for a teacher that's really diving into it is a very busy time period, because you're going from group to group of students. Like, what are you doing? What do you need help with? Like, so explain to me this. And then you give them like the pointer here or there. It's like, well, hey, have you thought about this? Did you think about that? And their light bulbs go off, or you go there and you're blown away. I'm like, whoa, I can't believe that you're doing that. I'm like, I never thought of it that way. So there's more of this interaction in idea exchange with that, as opposed to giving them a piece of paper and then running it through a machine and putting a score and then moving on. There's this exchange of ideas that happens over the course of,
and that's really the fun part in me being a teacher, the way I see it. That's really the great part of working in this business.
It is. And that's. When I don't have that type of fun, I'll be ready to move on, and I'm still having that fun. I'm still learning from the kids, and we're having powerful discussions, and kids are expressing their beliefs, and other kids are changing theirs based on class discussion, and those are awesome moments when kids can grow a little bit in the classroom.
Absolutely.
Just based on a few conversations. Ooh, man.
Whoa.
I know. Well, it's when I think about the things that you do in the class, and we're starting our second semester today. So how quickly the time goes by over the course of one semester is even amazing. We start in the beginning of September, and here we are now at the beginning of February, and it's a whirlwind, and you blink and it goes by, and these kids, they grow up and they learn so much. But it's exciting, and trying to find ways to incorporate new technologies and new ideas and new methodologies is great. And I'm very lucky to be in a district that is fairly supportive of my crazy ideas. And,
or not so crazy ideas, perhaps.
Yeah, well, and
let's talk about innovation and.
It's tough. Sometimes some of the things that I have started that were considered crazy are now considered commonplace. I was I pushed and got a grant to have a overhead projector in my classroom. We used to have these big, bulky TVs in our room that you could connect to the computer and put your PowerPoint up or whatever. And I was like, the kids in the back can't see. It's really tough. It's in the corner. I was like, it'd be cool if I just got a projector and I could like put it up, and that way everyone can see. And like, I wrote this grant. I was like one of the first teachers to have it, which is it's crazy because they're so commonplace now. Like, for so many school districts to have a projector in your room that presents on the screen, and then so everyone can see it. Like, that's so commonplace now. But at the time, 10 years ago or so, like, that was a crazy idea, and like I had to go and do all this research and do this presentation and get the grant and get the money for it. And now it would be crazy to do that. And I think as we look at technology, that's kind of what happens. I mean, whether it's the classroom computer, whether it's now a classroom set of Chromebooks or iPads or anything else, things that were considered to be way too expensive to put into a classroom are now just considered.
Whoops, something happened here. And what happened is that Nick just disappeared, which is a pity, like in mid-sentence. And we are definitely still alive here. At least that's what it looks like to me. So I have high hopes of getting him back, because this was great fun. How am I going to play this? Nick, if you can hear me, the link you got from me should definitely still work. So I guess that would be the first choice. Let's see if I can reach Nick through the chat. Let's see here. I'm live again. It's the same Hangout on here. Darn! Let's see, there's an app that's messing things up. And now, do I have a chance to get Nick in here again? I hope this is not a reoccurring problem I've got here. There's one app that's messing things up, perhaps. And I just shut it down. Okay. So, hey, Nick, I gotta get hold of you. First time ever going down in flames completely in the middle of the Hangout. What a bummer. Let's see. Okay, I got a message from Nick here, I think. Can access Google Plus. All right, let's see. Can you try the same link again? The one I mailed you earlier.
Hello.
Hey, man, you're back.
I'm back. Google like crashed over here, like completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it just went down in flames, just like bang, out cold. I just texted you that try the link again. I guess that's what you did.
Yep, I was just going back and forth and refreshed it. There you go.
I just wonder if I have a bad, well, you know, I have some bad feelings about this thing. If it's going to crash and burn again, you know.
Just a fun little hiccup. That's okay.
I hope it's just this is kind of interesting. It's the first time ever for me that a Hangout and Air crashes completely without any warning in the middle of a whatever you call it, webcast.
Yeah,
and I've been doing like, I don't know, say 50 or something.
Yeah,
or something like that. First time ever.
Yeah, this was crazy to see it just kind of the way it just kind of bombed out like that.
It's bound to happen sooner or later.
Right?
Now we just made it.
Absolutely.
So we'll see if we are good here now or not. When I restarted the Hangout, I got this message first where it said, well, first of all, it said, "This is an error."
Yeah, I got this. I got the same thing too.
It's an error, which wasn't a big surprise to me that it was an error. But then it said something. I tried to connect again, and it said, "There's a problem with this Hangout. Try again in a couple of minutes." And that just tried again, and we are live, I guess, again.
Yeah, so here we are. So we've got a few more minutes to chit chat for sure.
Yeah, we got a few more minutes, and if it goes down again, I guess that's about it. You know, we've gone through quite a lot of stuff already, which is a good thing. But I sure would like to ask a little bit about all that stuff you've been doing, like with Edutopia. Is that it? And TED Ed and whatnot.
Yeah.
Actually, I would like to hear about the basic setup you have in the classroom as well, about what you do with iPads and stuff. But let's leave that a little bit and dive into what you do with, say, Edutopia and TED Ed. That is really interesting.
Yeah. So, geez, I've been writing for Edutopia for, a number of years now, 4 or 5 years. And
can you say a couple of words about Edutopia, what it is, actually?
Absolutely. So Edutopia is a nonprofit education company that focuses on providing information for educators. And it is run, it is created by George Lucas, Star Wars fame there.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, so this is his way of giving back. And it has been an amazing experience writing for this group, because they are dedicated to helping teachers be up to date on everything that's going around them and providing resources on just so many different topics. So
do they fund education projects, or
they primarily just provide the resources through their website. So they're not like a granting institution. They are just out there to provide the best top-notch information any person can find through their website, and it is great. It's edutopia.org. I mean, their concepts, whether it is maker spaces, whether it's project-based learning, whether it's reading strategies, classroom management, flipped classroom.
Wow, I mean, that's like broad.
Oh, they've got so many topics. I mean, you can just go to their site and just put in a topic and you will find it.
All right.
I mean, it is filled with so many amazing things.
So they do have a bunch of guest bloggers, like you are one of those, or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's tons of guest bloggers with all different types of backgrounds from all across the country, and it's just amazing at the talent that they have like organized across their network. So I would definitely recommend everyone to check it out because it's such a great connection for all teachers just to see what is going on and how they can interact with it. And yeah, it's been a great experience. I was really shocked when they asked me to write for them. It was like my first time anyone's like, hey, would you like write for us? And I was like, oh, okay, that's okay. I was like surprised because you know, you never really think that someone is going to, I don't know, want to hear what you have to say, and so it's always really, you know, special when someone says, "Hey, yeah,
Absolutely.
we want you to do this." And so I've been writing.
I must take on my classes. We're getting serious here now.
It's been really cool because it's allowed me to connect to so many more educators across the country because of that. And that's, again, those are powerful things because the more that you're connected, the more that you can learn. And I'm all about learning these new things.
Yeah. Is there an international dimension as well there?
I believe there's some. I mean, it's primarily focused on U.S.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't think they are that well known on this side of the pond.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with it is that, I mean, they're talking about best practices, so it's not specific to a country. I mean, flipped learning doesn't just happen in one country, or project-based learning doesn't happen in one country. You know, so that's, for me, that's what makes it so powerful is that anyone, wherever you are, if you're an educator, can look at this and learn something. Yeah. And that's amazing because you really want to engage all educators around the world because, you know, we really are a global environment at this point. I mean, we really need to embrace that. And teaching practices are one of the best ways to do that. I mean, it's so it's just a world that I didn't think would like exist when I started teaching. And like that's like, for me, that's the crazy thing because, you know, when I started teaching and, you know, when you started teaching, things are so different. They are so different. Like, you just never would have thought that I would be on a video call with someone from Sweden.
From the North Pole, for heaven's sake.
You know, talking about education. And
isn't that pretty cool? That's, you know, to me as well, it's really amazing thing that I can do this thing and learn all this stuff from people who can be anywhere. It's just blows the mind.
Well, and that's it is. It's just I can't sometimes. Again, like I said, I'm still just like really blown away at the opportunities that we have now, and those educators that are basically refusing to embrace those. That's the part that really flabbergasts me because it's just like, oh, we have all of these great opportunities now. What do you mean you're not going to? Or what do you mean that you don't care or that you don't have the time? I'm like, this is huge for our students to be able to have this opportunity. Is definitely something I'm very proud of. To say that I am part of. I can do this. I am, you know, working to be better as an educator, and yeah. So it's just, you very rarely lost for words. But this is like one of those times when I I'm just blown away at my opportunities to do these really cool things. So,
yeah. And of course, this stuff, to me, definitely, it's professional development. You know, like with a silver lining in a way.
Yes,
for sure. Being able to connect with you like this, it's just crazy. And a couple of years ago, it would have cost a ton. It would have been possible. It would have cost a ton. This doesn't cost me a dime, and not my employee either, by the way.
Yeah.
And anyone can watch this or listen to it, and that's the pretty cool part of Hangouts on Air. You know, the YouTube connection is wild. It's wild that it's free.
It really is, and it's something that we need to prepare our students for, because it's already reality they're living in. So to pretend like it doesn't exist, and for them to go through school and possibly all the way to university without ever utilizing any of these tools really puts them at a disadvantage to their peers, which are, again, worldwide now. I mean, it's not like they're just going to go to university and just deal with their small local community. They're going to university with the entire world. Like they will have people. It's so competitive, and something as simple as, oh, I never used a touchscreen before, or oh, I never did a video chat before, or I don't really use email. I mean, these are like skills that you need. Like if you don't know how to search and disseminate information from the internet, you are a distinct disadvantage over someone that has those skills. And
that's a fact.
We need to prepare our kids for that, and that's something that a number of years ago I've decided to to embrace and be better and prepare my kids for that.
And of course, with all these possibilities comes great responsibility as well.
It really does, and letting kids know about good digital citizenship is super important. We want our kids to know that their behavior is interacting online should be no different than interacting in person. It's one of those, if you wouldn't say it to their face, why would you say it through a tweet, or why would you say it on a Facebook post? I mean, there's definitely that aspect of kids think that because it's not face to face, there's that impulse like I can say what I want. But
and the funny thing is that many grown-ups think the same.
Well, yeah, and for them, it's almost too late because they're not going to get that information.
It's too late.
I mean, they're out of school.
Yeah, you're right about that.
They should know better as adults, but they don't. But there's nothing you can do to change those people. I mean, honestly, like you can try, but for kids,
sometimes it's not even worth trying.
Right, it's your head against the wall. And for kids, though, if we can hammer home now, which I'm hoping you will see this generation that's going to come up with, appropriate access. You will always have bullies. You will always have people using things inappropriately. Like we're not going to eliminate that.
Sure.
But you can help eliminate. You can help cut down those numbers significantly. Absolutely. You can help kids that are being bullied digitally have the skills to process and know where to go for support. And those things are being put in place. And as every new technology evolves, there will be issues with people using it, and it's our job as educators to do that. Virtual reality is probably going to be one of those next big ones where you'll have that out there, and you will have people misusing it, or kids that are doing this or that. And our job as educators will be to say, okay, this is how it's used, or this is how it can be used from an educational standpoint. This is what you can learn
how to do it right.
Exactly. And I think as teachers, again, we can't sit there and go, well, that's not my job.
It doesn't work.
I mean, as a teacher, like the thought of virtual reality is amazing. Like I can take my kids on a field trip without having to leave the classroom, or we can look around or visit Shakespeare's home. We can go to the Globe and we can do our own Shakespeare as if we were actually standing on the stage of the Globe. Like that's insane. Like how, like I think of that as an English teacher. I'm like, that can't get here fast enough. Like that's what I'm so excited about.
Well, it's coming for sure. It's coming for sure.
It is.
It is already there partly. I mean,
it is, and that's the thing. It's expensive, but like all things, as it becomes more popular and the price comes down, and then you can get it in classrooms. I mean, the thought of having a tablet in every class was crazy. Now it's like, let's get them in there.
Man, I like this positive note. Really, talking about education in general. How are you guys doing in the U.S.? How is the U.S. what state of the U.S. education? Are we still positive here? Without people being too negative. And just a
um,
couple of words about the situation on my home turf in the Nordic area.
Yeah.
We are not doing too well, with the exception of Finland, of course.
Yeah, right.
Which is like some kind of I don't know what. I guess they must have been doing something right. my good old home country. But
Yeah.
like in Sweden, the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, we've been discussing here what on earth is wrong with education. All the time it's been what is wrong with it, and obviously something must have been badly wrong all the time. It's been debated over and over all the time. What do you say about this thing? What about the US?
Well, very similar. It sounds like I would say whenever it's an election cycle, it's always easy to say, our schools are wrong. Our schools can be better, because everyone will rally around making schools better. I mean, no one's going to say, "Oh no, like let's make them worse." So it's a very easy thing for a politician to say, like, we need to make them better.
Sure.
Well, okay, yeah, that's everyone's for making it better. How do you do that? That's a completely different question that no one really wants to address. I mean, there's the big test. Let's test the kids.
That's obviously not the way to do it, if I got your
and a lot of teachers are pushing back, and they want to tie those tests to teachers' evaluation. So if that kid doesn't do well, then the teacher doesn't get paid as much, or I know it's ideas like that where they tie all that together, or but there's so much that goes into it. And the fact that if you teach in an area with high poverty, those kids are not going to learn as well as kids that teach in an area where they're very affluent. And
it's a completely different situation, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, I mean, it just is. And when you try to compare the U.S. to other countries, that's great, but our system is not the same as theirs. Whether it's Finland, where the poverty rate is nowhere near the poverty rate of the United States. It's just insane. I mean, we've got a number of kids that don't even eat well every single day. And then you're like, stick a test in front of them, let's see how they do. And that's the teacher's fault if the kid doesn't do well. So there's really been in the United States, education, you have the federal involvement, which tells the states how to do things, but then each state can decide how they want to deal with certain things. So we've got 50 states and 50 different rules, and it's tough because it's tough to be on the same page. I'd like that each state can decide what's best for their geographic area, because we are such a large country and we have a diverse population, and those are good things. And I think you need to be able to customize for your community. But at the same time, there's also this national view of like, teachers can be better. Of course we can. Like no teacher's saying that they're perfect. But there's this unrealistic idea that there are laws that said by this year, 100% of kids are going to pass this math test. Like, if you know anything about math, it's like statistically impossible to be 100% of anything. I mean, it's just we're human beings. Like, we can't be perfect and do all those things. So, teachers were working to do better, and through blogs and things like that, advocacy. As teachers, we have to tell our story. Yeah, we can't let others tell the story for us. So.
Makes sense.
So that's it. I mean, to end this on a positive note, because I have kids coming in the classroom.
Right.
The one thing that I'll tell for people out there is that one, be ready to fail, and fail in front of your kids and show them that you fail so that they feel good about taking risks and failing themselves. It's the best thing I've ever done in my classroom. It's the most powerful thing that kids can see is an adult own up to failing, because they will feel way more comfortable about failing in your classroom if they feel like you're willing to do it too. Try to embrace new technology. Don't try to do everything at once. A lot of people get overwhelmed and they see what I do or other teachers do. Pick one thing, work on it for the year. You might like it, you might toss it. There are so many things that I've tried that I haven't used. I mean, that could be a whole other website that I run. Like, this is what I don't use. So try new things, just do it a little bit, integrate it, work with your kids. And lastly, keep having fun, focus on having fun in your classroom. If you have fun in your classroom, it'll make whatever it is that you want to do a lot more exciting and interesting for the kids that get to hang out with you throughout the day. So those are my
they see if you're having a good time, if you're like having fun with them, and things tend to like move smoother if you are actually having fun with them.
Yeah, if you're having a good time, they'll have a good time.
Same thing, isn't it? Huh?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on.
Great pleasure. And
yeah,
I would love to talk with you sometime more about this tech stuff as well, since I'm also a little bit of a nerd, I guess. I must admit, and especially, like how you do it in the classroom, like for example with those iPads are using mostly this time. Was it?
Yeah, iPads. They have a class set of iPads. Yep.
And I don't care about the brand or what type of device and stuff. Obviously, neither do you. But I mean, the thing that works, that's interesting, and I'd love to hear more about that sometime.
Yeah, I'm always happy to come back on. Like I said, I'm up early in the morning anyway, so
cool.
I'm happy to talk to you guys. And if anyone ever has questions for me, you can reach out to me on Twitter @TheNerdyTeacher, or you can stop by my website, thenerdyteacher.com, send me a message, and I'm happy to help wherever you are in the world, because we're all teachers and we all want what's best for our kids.
Perfect. The Nerdy Teacher. That's you, huh?
Yes, that is me.
The honorary title.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to go and now teach the crap out of these kids and have a good time.
Have fun with those guys.
I will. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.